Shalom and welcome. You're listening to a WAS Community Radio Show. My name is Esther and I brought along Mr. Robert Marks from the Federation of Jewish Services. Thank you, Robert, for coming in today.
You're very welcome.
My first question today is, as I know and as I am a volunteer, a proud volunteer of the Federation, can you explain to my listeners, please, what the Federation organisation is all about?
Okay, well, very simply, the Federation of Jewish Services, more commonly known as the Fed, is a social welfare charity in Manchester which cares for people who are either older people, people with disabilities or vulnerable people at risk. And there's kind of two arms to the work that the Fed does. The one arm that a lot of people know about is Heathlands Village, which is a care home for older people. And that's in the heart of Prestwich on Moor Lane. And the other side of the work that we do is much more community-based. So we have a social care team that works with families and adults who are maybe vulnerable and need support. We have a children's centre on site for children with disabilities. We have mental health services, and we have regular events that go on in the community.
What facilities does the Fed have to offer besides for the Purple Room and Project Smile?
A huge amount. The Purple Room and Project Smile, just very quickly, Project Smile is our children's support services in the community. If there are families that have children requiring support, Project Smile will allow them to gain support from the Fed, either in the form of a volunteer or paid staff. And the Purple Room is an area that we use for a lot of our mental health services, which is run through our newly renamed all-age services, which is our social care team, our family support in the community and things like that. However, on site we have a very large care home, which is a complete hive of community activity. When you think of a care home, you maybe think of a traditional care home, which is a bit stuffy, not very welcoming, certainly not very bright and cheerful. But I think when people come into Heathlands Village, the first thing they think of is that it looks like a hotel. We have a big cafe on site which is open to the public. It's full most days at lunchtime and in the afternoon. Families will come in to visit their relatives. The residents can use it, staff use it. There's a children's centre on site as well. How many old age homes can say they have a children's centre on site? And as well as that, we have an activity centre where the residents go for daily activities and where we have speakers that come in, different events that go on for the residents. So there's a whole load of things that go on.
There's also, I believe, a synagogue there, isn't there?
There is a synagogue which is used every day. And what's lovely about the synagogue is it's really something that the community has taken to heart, rather than it just being for the residents and being maybe a bit of a dead end for people. It's actually something that a number of families in the community, some of whom have connections to Heathlands Village and the Fed, and some really don't have any connection in terms of their own families at all. They come in on a daily or weekly basis. They have a real connection with the residents, and it's something that's very much a part of their lives.
It's amazing that you mentioned the canteen because I've been there and it's really delicious. How many volunteers do you have at the Fed?
We have around 500 at any one time who are active in the community. It's a massive number, and those volunteers range from the youngest being in their kind of mid-teens, so 16, up all the way to we have volunteers in their 90s. And they do so many different things in the community. They can befriend people who might be lonely, they can help people with shopping, taking people to doctor's appointments, a whole range of things. They help out in the offices as well at the Fed, and they're really kind of the backbone of the organisation. Without all the volunteers, we simply couldn't do the work that we do.
Oh, it's nice to hear some praise as I volunteer at the Fed, and I'm really proud and happy to be a volunteer. I really love it. I have grown so much just from my two clients that I take care of, and I believe in them, and I really enjoy them, and I look forward to it every week. Knowing I'm going to go to them every second week to be part of their life and to, just be there for them. And I'm really happy to be part of such a wonderful organisation. How long has the Fed been open for?
Well, that's an interesting question. This year is a very special year for the Fed because it is actually our 150th anniversary. Now, the Fed hasn't been the Fed for all that time. It's been a number of different organisations, but the original Board of Jewish Guardians was formed in July 1867. So as we're talking today in July, it's exactly 150 years since the initial organisation was formed. Now, over time, that's changed. The Board of Guardians then became the Manchester Jewish Social Services, which then became the Federation of Jewish Services. And in 2009, the Fed and Heathlands Village, which were two separate organisations, merged together, which now forms the organisation that we have today, which covers so many bases. So the actual answer to the question is, although it's been in various guises throughout, this is our 150th year, which is quite a long time.
If I know of anyone who wants to volunteer, do they have to have any qualifications to volunteer?
No, there's no specific qualifications. A good sense of humour is one. Communication skills, being a good listener, good conversationalist, things like that. And I think what's really important for people to be aware of is we find sometimes the thing that puts people off wanting to volunteer is they have this mindset that if they commit to volunteering, they have to do an hour a week, they have to do X many hours a month. Now, whilst we would love people to give us a fixed amount of time, it doesn't have to be like that. We can work on a basis that suits people, and really, if somebody is the right person to volunteer, we will work with them to find something that they can do.
Very interesting. Are there any good stories you can share with my listeners today about the Fed?
There's always good stories. There's a few that I can share over the last 12 months or so. I said before, I don't know how many care homes have a children's centre on site. Well, another thing that we have, which we're pretty certain is the only one in the country, is we have a fantastic themed garden outside for the residents, and it's the theme of the seaside. And the garden has a pier, it has beach huts, it has a sand pit, there is a small boat with a big sail. But what makes it really incredible is the garden has been there for about a year, but about a month and a half ago we launched the sound system in the garden, and there have been speakers placed in different areas around the garden. We have been working with a composer from a university, and the garden now has, as well as being the theme of the seaside, there are actually the sounds of the seaside as well. So there are, waves, seagulls, the sound of children playing on the beach, there's a steam train. And what we think is so amazing about this is that rather than just kind of getting a CD, playing it and finished, the composer that we worked with, Professor Davis Moon from Edge Hill University, he worked with our residents for a number of months. He sat with them and he kind of delved into their memories to find out what they remembered as children going to the beach. He discussed what sounds they would like, and then based on that, he actually created this whole soundscape for the garden. We think there might be other gardens like it in different areas in the country, but as far as we're aware, we are the only one that has the sound element as well. So that's one. And the other thing I would say, just little things that happen as you kind of walk around. One of the things that I think makes Heathlands stand out as an incredible place, not only to live as a resident, but also to work, is there's no division between different staff members, between residents, between anyone. Once you walk in the building, it's almost like a family. I was walking through one of the residential areas last week, and one of the porters, whose job is to kind of wheel things around, move things from one side of the building to another, do a lot of the heavy lifting, was in a lounge where there was a resident, and kind of linked to nothing at all, just sat down and had a 5-minute chat with one of the residents, were catching up, and it was very clear that they knew each other very well. And this was just one resident, one, in the nicest way possible, one obscure member of staff. It wasn't one of their regular care staff, and they sat and they chatted like old friends, and I think that's just a wonderful thing to see.
It's amazing you say that, because when I come in and speak to any of the volunteer coordinators, they all seem to know what's going on, and they're all so friendly, and I just love it. I mean, also when I walk in, the receptionist there, I feel like I'm at home. I come in, everyone knows me, whether I'm going to the canteen, whether I'm coming for a meeting, and it's nice to see, there is care, as I say, share is care, care is share in the community. And as you say, whatever walks of life, whoever you are, wherever you are, you walk into Heathlands Village, somebody will greet you with a smile.
Absolutely.
Are there any forthcoming events in the Fed?
We have a few things. lined up over the summer. One of the things that I do want to talk about, although it's not a particular event in itself, as I said before, this is our 150th year, and our volunteer team, who work unbelievably hard, have set themselves a challenge that being our 150th year, they want to recruit 150 new volunteers. And this is something that's going to be ongoing for a period of time. It's something that has already had quite a lot of success. We've had a lot of people ringing up to take part and join in and become new volunteers. And what I would say that this really, to me, highlights the way the Fed respects the history of the organisation, but also looks to the future. We know, obviously, that we have a long and very proud history serving the community, and there are some families, in fact there are some residents who not only are now residents in Heathlands, but they have been supporters of Heathlands and they have been volunteers for Heathlands for almost 50 years. So there are families that have links going back 60, 70 years with us. But we're also looking to the future, and being our 150th year, we want to raise the number of volunteers we have even higher. We want to recruit 150 new volunteers. And what I would say to anyone that might be interested and might be considering volunteering is, don't be nervous about it. We find people often are quite nervous. They don't know whether they're the right person. They don't know whether they'll know what to say to someone when they're volunteering. They think it might be a bit awkward. What I would say is that most of the volunteers that work with us, after a while, after they've got to know the person they're working with, always say that as much as they're giving to the person, they are also gaining so much more from working with the person. Now, anyone that might be interested, I would say to get in touch with us.
How can one get in touch with the Fed?
The easiest way to do it is to call the main Fed number, which is 0161 772 4800, and ask to speak to anyone in the volunteer recruitment team.
Thank you very much, Robert, for coming to explain to my listeners the most amazing work the Fed has to offer. And I agree with what you said, and I said it myself. I think I give, but really I gain from the volunteer coordinators. You know, I enjoy coming into the canteen. I enjoy every member of staff I've met, past, and present. They really are fun to work with, and I'm proud to do so.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm very pleased to hear it.
Thank you. Have a good day.